We got Gators Breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Another episode this week. A lot going on. The Gators released their 2025 schedule, or the SEC announces the Gators 2025 schedule, and more transfer portal news cometh and goeth there for the Gators. So plenty to get into. It doesn't slow down. There's never a dull moment. You all know that. So it's hey, look, we got plenty to get into with this schedule for sure. I think most of us knew that out there that it was going to be released right here on this Wednesday. So a little bit of prep work and getting to it. So plenty of conversation to go around on that one. Pretty interesting schedule there for the Gators. As we know, it was the same as it was this year as far as conference opponents go, and Miami. So the conference opponents just switched home and away. And then, of course, the out of conference, Miami, FSU is going to stay the same as well. Gators adding USF and Long Island. So we will certainly get into that and how the schedule breaks down and, our initial reactions. You guys can leave me your reactions as well in the comments. But hit that like button and subscribe right here on Gators Breakdown, right here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. But hey, just all those things just really help us out. Those likes go a long way right here on the YouTube version of things. And of course, if you guys want even more, keep that conversation going, become a member at Gators Breakdown Plus. Link is in the description. Extra episodes, chat episodes, ad-free episodes of Gators Breakdown, all that good stuff right there. As you can become a member in the conversation. Hey, really busy right now in that recruiting channel with the transfer portal moving along. So it's just hot and heavy right there on the Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. You get access to that. Link is in the description for Gators Breakdown Plus. All right, so let's get to it. Let's throw up the 2025 Florida Gators schedule. And a lot of it we already knew. As I said, the conferences, some games we already knew with Long Island, USF, and Georgia. Of course, that game being there, Florida State being the last game of the season. So a lot of these you could already fill out. But as far as the hot and heavy, Miami was already scheduled for September 20th. So was Florida going to have a bye week before Miami, or they go, how was it going to play out? Well, we got our answer right here this Wednesday night. So the Gators will start with Long Island August 30th. It's a schedule a lot like last year. You get 2 bye weeks there. So I think a benefit. I kind of like that. It extends the season. We got 14 weeks of college football again next season. So, and of course, all the good games in the SEC and all the competition that was in the SEC this year, you get it again next year. But the Gators will open the season. Hey, not against Utah like 2 years ago, not against like Miami this past year. Long Island will come to the Swamp. And then the next week, in-state foe USF will come to the Swamp. So there you go. 2 out-of-conference opponents. No conference opponents to start the season in the first 2 games. And no, Power 4 opponents in the first couple of games here for the Gators. And then the first SEC game of the season. Have to go back and confirm, but cannot remember a time. And, at least when a lot of us started watching, football there. And of course, when LSU comes to the Swamp this early, or when Florida plays LSU this early at LSU, at LSU, September 13th, first road game of the season. So there you go. It'd be the first game. We figure all those out. Will it be a night game at Tiger Stadium at LSU week 3, first conference game, first road game for the Gators, and then back that up on the road again at Miami. And I posted this on Twitter. The back-to-back games, LSU, Miami. And a lot of people were joking, well, it's going to be a home game at Miami. So, we all get the joke there there will be a lot of Gator fans in Hard Rock Stadium there in Miami. But you get, you start your friendly confines. You got to still go on the road. You get one less day at home. So back-to-back road games at LSU, at Miami. And then I think after two road games, and look at Miami's not it's not a crazy road game. But still on the road, not in the Swamp. Then you get a bye week right before Texas. I think that breaks out pretty well for Florida. 2 road games, bye week to recover, and a bye week before one of the toughest opponents on your schedule. Bye week September 27th, and then Texas comes to the Swamp on October 4th. Remember the blowout from this past game. Would not expect that to be looking like that in this year, in this 2025 schedule. Arch Manning, DJ Lagway. I mean, if the season's going like both programs really expected at this point, that's good. That game right there, you're going to be circling. The nation is going to be circling two high-profile quarterbacks. When we get to next summer, we get to preseason magazines, and you start seeing where quarterbacks are ranking in the SEC, Arch Manning and DJ Lagway are going to be up there. So that's a game this far away to start circling. I mean, we are anyway, because Texas is coming to the Swamp. But the nation's going to be circling if this season's probably going like many expect, and you got high-profile quarterbacks involved. So then the Gators will go on the road to play Texas A&M. So both Texas schools back-to-back there for the Gators. Can Gators get some revenge on the Aggies going there October 11th? Then Mississippi State at home the week after that on October 18th. 3 conference games in a row right in the middle of the season. Texas at Texas A&M return home to host Mississippi State. Then, of course, the bye week on October 25th being the week before Florida goes to Jacksonville and plays Georgia. This November is a little more acceptable than the last November Florida just played, though Florida went on a run in November, but it starts with Georgia anyway, like it does this past year, like it did this past year. Time to change that one. Time to turn that one around. We'll see Georgia's quarterback situation when we look at it from this far away. Don't know how their quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, probably going to be the guy there for Georgia. But there's going to be a lot of quarterback change when you look at this schedule there for the Gators. You go back earlier, LSU week 3, Garrett Nussmeier announced he's coming back there. Miami will have a new quarterback. Texas will have a new quarterback. Somewhat, Arch Manning's gotten some playing time, of course. We'll see about Texas A&M, Mississippi State to have a new quarterback, Georgia have a new quarterback there to start November. And then November 8th at Kentucky. There for the Gators, of course, blew Kentucky out this past year. Kind of the first, SEC start there for DJ Lagway. Seeing the explosion there. Kentucky looking like a different team again next year. We'll see what that holds there. Ole Miss the very next week. Kentucky is November 8th. Ole Miss is November 15th. So with the Georgia game being in Jacksonville, and then at Kentucky, and then at Ole Miss, 3 weeks in a row on the road for the Gators, or away from the Swamp for the Gators. Throw in that bye week before that, and you got about a month before you see Florida back in the Swamp playing. October 18th versus Mississippi State. Florida won't be back into the Swamp until November 22nd in hosting Tennessee. But you got the back-to-back true road games at Kentucky, at Ole Miss. Ole Miss will be looking a little bit different, too, at the quarterback spot. Kind of revenge on their mind, of course, for Florida kind of dashing their college football playoff hopes. November 15th at Ole Miss. November 22nd, as I said, come back home. First time in about a month, hosting Tennessee. Late game, of course. You got to go back to 2001. And, of course, the unfortunate events of September 11th. Florida had to play Tennessee in December. In 2020, Florida played Tennessee in December. Kind of weird circumstances when Florida's played Tennessee late in the season. Not this time. Normal season here, 2025, the Gators will host Tennessee a week before they host and end the season against Florida State. 2 rivals to end the season at home in the Swamp. Of course, FSU going through a lot of changes. Gus Malzahn coming in as offensive coordinator. Luke Kromenhoek was the quarterback when Florida played FSU a couple weeks ago. He's in the transfer portal. So FSU going to be looking a lot different. I'm telling you, with the way the transfer portal and everything works right now, there's going to be a lot of quarterback changes for the opponents here for the Gators. All right, let's get to some comments. What you guys think right here? Let me go through some of these. Q Lee, welcome back. Liquid Flames, welcome back. What's up, Travis? East Raymond, we'll go into this season in just a second. Yeah, our bowl opponent, Tulane's quarterback, just got the transfer portal. Yep, but he is going to play. He's still going to play in this bowl game. So Ty Thompson there. So looking at it. Gabe, evening Gators. What's up, guys? Thanks for hopping in. I know this was coming about another episode where I just didn't really get to plan it too much just because I wasn't sure how fast we would get the schedule tonight. Q Lee says, chomp on Gators. Ty Holder, here we go, Dave. I love this. Always look forward to these podcasts. Never a dull moment. Yep, everybody, some reminders in here. Gabe said, everybody hit that like button, of course. Here we go. Sean Mack. Great little point here. At LSU early is amazing. Good way to start the Heisman campaign with a 2 there for the S in Heisman. Of course, DJ Lagway's numbers. But yeah, for sure. Won't be getting a whole lot of love with Long Island and USF. And hey, look, with that USF game, they've played Bama tough the last couple of years. So I don't know how much of a barometer you really want to use it. But of course, you want to go play well, and you may have to play well. USF, like I said, played Bama tough. Bama had to scratch and claw their way 2 years ago. It was a tough game into the fourth quarter until Bama kind of pulled away in this past year's fourth quarter against USF. So, and of course, they're going to be looking at it as well as facing the in-state flagship school. Let's go try and get an upset. And Florida's got at LSU the next week, so can't be really looking ahead. Play your game, you beat USF, but yeah, you won't be getting a whole lot of hype until that at LSU game. So go play well versus Long Island. Go play well versus USF. Go get in your groove. You can't start the season like you did last year. It's going to be a little bit different because you don't have Miami and Texas A&M early on, but Texas A&M was the third game this past year. And Florida still didn't look great early in the season in that game either. So at the same, you're going to get a pretty good barometer versus USF, but we're not really going to know till Florida goes at LSU. That's when we'll get our first true look at these Gators. Now, you can't go lose to USF. And that would be a true look because, as I said, start the season well. We'll know what it looks like. But more than likely, what we see how this season playing out, that true first test at LSU, September 13th. Florida Reptile 01 says the schedule is crazy. It is. It is. I mean, LSU is just going to be a tough team. Miami, of course, we'll see what they look like without Cam Ward. We'll see what they do in the transfer portal for a quarterback. But those 2 games back-to-back, it's not going to be easy. Texas coming to the Swamp, tons of talent. Arch Manning, Steve Sarkisian, a playoff team. Texas A&M, of course, very talented roster as well. You got to go on the road again. In College Station. Amazing how many times Florida has had to play there. And then, of course, Georgia, playoff team. We know how tough that game's going to be. It's just going to be. Mississippi State, probably better in Jeff Levy's second year as head coach. Kentucky, I don't know what to expect from Kentucky next year. That's going to be a team, let's see what they do in the transfer portal and changes they make. But then at Ole Miss, Lane's going to be hitting the portal very, very hard again. And then Tennessee, playoff team, end of the year. I mean, I like the way it breaks out. You don't have that long stretch of like you just had this past November. And Florida took advantage this past November. LSU, not as good. Take advantage. Go beat them. Ole Miss was beatable. You went and beat them. Florida State, terrible. Okay. November didn't look as tough as it did at the beginning of the season, but still tough. I mean, Miami. And then you kind of flip some teams a bit. A&M maybe a little bit better than some people thought. Miami was certainly better than some people thought, especially at the beginning of the year. But this schedule, I mean, you don't know sometimes how these schedules are going to break out. But Texas is going to be good. Georgia's going to be good. Tennessee, they've been recruiting around the same level as you. I mean, they're going to be a formidable opponent. A&M's going to be a formidable opponent. I expect a better Mississippi State team. Florida State won't be as bad as they were this past year. I'd be surprised. It's hard to be that bad. So, we'll see. I don't think it's as tough as this past year, given some of the questions from some of these teams and what they're replacing. But it is, like I said, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. You got 3 playoff teams on your schedule. See how it all shakes out. The Q lead, agreeing right there. It says that third game will be where the season starts. And this is different too. You know, as I said, it is a little bit different because you got the 2 warm-up games. Now, yeah, if Florida's Florida, and if this season's going the way we think it should at the beginning of the year, yeah. I mean, I don't want to trounce on USF and call them a warm-up game, but if Florida's Florida, that's a warm-up game. Go do your thing. Sean Mack, imagine DJ throwing 6 touchdowns, I'm assuming, 500-plus yards in Death Valley. Not that crazy to imagine, which is the best part. LSU's defense is struggling this past year a good bit. They got some improvements to make on that side of the ball, and I don't know. You know what? Let's take a look at that. What is LSU? I don't want to do this before every team, but let's see who each team has before, at least the game before Florida. But for LSU, who do they have the 2 weeks before Florida? All right, so if I go to LSU has Clemson week 1 and Louisiana Tech before Florida. So it's not like they can spend their first 2 weeks of the season or their off season preparing for Florida. LSU's got Clemson week 1. So a lot's going to go into that game while Florida's playing Long Island and then USF the next week. And like I said, you'll game plan for Long Island's that's a cupcake city. Well, we all know that. That's just what it's going to be. But, Brian Kelly, year 3, and just think about how much they're probably going to put in that first game. Think about Brian Kelly, guys. 0-2 in his first 2 seasons against Florida State in that first game of the season. Got lost to a average at best USC team this past season in the first game of the season. They have Clemson the first game of the season this year. Florida 2 weeks later. So they're going to be putting so much into that Clemson game. Now, they're a roster. They're a program that can overcome those things. Not saying just because they got Clemson week 1, that should be a shoe-in win for Florida. But at least they can't spend all offseason. Like Kentucky used to do. They'd play Florida week 3, week 4, and they'd have Eastern Michigan, and they'd have Toledo or Miami of Ohio, or something like that. They'd have those patsy games, and they'd just prepare for Florida all offseason in the first few games of the season. LSU can't do that. Let's see. All right, let's go to Texas. And I know Texas, they have Oklahoma the week after Florida. So their biggest rivals the week after Florida. And I don't think there'll be any kind of look ahead, but that's worth bringing up. But if we go to Texas, now remember Texas had a bye week this past year before Florida. They pretty much got a bye week this year as well. They got Sam Houston the week before Florida. So not really catching a break there. But of course, Texas, first year in the SEC, going to the college football playoff, made it to the SEC championship game, the 2 losses against Georgia. Texas A&M, the week before they played Florida, they played Mississippi State. So at least it's a conference game. No patsy, no bye week there for Texas A&M. Of course, Georgia's got the bye week, the same as Florida, the week before the 2 teams play each other. Kentucky, the week before they play Florida, will have Auburn. So, of course, not a bye week. And that's something, remember, so many teams have bye weeks before Florida this year. Georgia, that's a wash. Both teams have a bye week, but Texas had that bye week. Ole Miss had that bye week. Anybody else have that bye week? LSU had to play Alabama the week before. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I don't think so. But yeah, Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss. Ole Miss had the bye week too, yeah. So there you go. But for right now, Florida and their opponents, the week before they play Florida, not as many bye weeks here. So let's go to Ole Miss. And let's see what they have. Ole Miss has the Citadel before Florida. So there you go. Kind of a bye week. That will be a bye week there for Ole Miss pretty much. Disappointing season for them this year. That late in the season, what will they be fighting for? But, of course, revenge will be on their mind. Tennessee, the week before they play Florida, has New Mexico State. So not bye weeks, but teams do have some patsy teams, but the week before they play Florida. I don't know I don't think the ACC has released their schedules yet. So I don't know who Miami and FSU have. I will look right quick while we're doing this. So excuse the live production going on here, but trying to get the info for you guys while we're on this. Miami's 2025 schedule. Pretty interesting. Miami has USF the week before they play Florida. So USF will play Florida, and then they will play Miami in back-to-back weeks. So the week before Florida plays Miami, Miami has USF. So at least that game, or Miami's early season schedule has pretty much come out. They play Notre Dame. Hey, Florida, okay, yeah. They don't have all season to prepare for Florida either. Notre Dame opens up against Miami on August 30th. Pretty interesting matchup there. Okay, then. And then September 20th to play Florida. But the week before they play Florida, they have USF. And then for Florida State, probably not that late in the season. I don't think they'll have their opponent yet, unless it's a cupcake opponent again. Nothing for Florida State that late in the season. So there you go. Kind of half and half there for Florida with teams and what they have the week before. Q Lee says Texas is going to be the hardest game of the season. I still don't want to throw away Georgia, but probably can lean that way as well. Definitely going to be one of those two teams, the way it looks right now. Brian, I will talk some portal in just a second. He's asking about the receivers there. Okay, is anything else about the schedule here? Sneaks from Dreek. Is Billy on the hot seat if he starts 2-2? So that would mean to me starting 2-0 and then losing LSU and then losing Miami. Of course, the talk will come up, yes, because it'll be like, well, the two teams, there's going to be so much hype in the offseason. And then it will say, all right, well, that means you have lost your first two games against formidable opponents. Well, it would have been a lot like this past year. So the talk will start, but the season will play out. Yes, it will probably be placed on the hot seat, but still plenty of time to work itself out. Kenny Roberts, good evening, Dave. Thanks for everything, bro. Hey, guys, thank you. Thank you so much. Like I said, I enjoyed doing it. This was the episode I was really looking forward to with the schedule release. Cody Moore, finally some warm-up games. Hey, it has been a while, as I mentioned, even going back. I said the last couple of years, and I mentioned at Utah, but yeah, the year before that, of course, Billy Napier opening up with Utah. So it's been Utah, Miami. Haven't had that traditional cupcake to start the season, and get it this time. Get it this time. Now, I have a limit. I don't like a whole lot of cupcakes, and Florida doesn't have them. Long Island, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the one in the first game of the season when you're all excited. It's like a cupcake in like the middle of the season. Sometimes you're like, okay, it's kind of a breather, kind of catch your breath game. But starting off the season, you're so excited anyway about the season starting. I don't care who Florida plays. I want to go see DJ Lagway, go throw for 5 touchdowns in the first half, and whoever the backup quarterback is, that's who we'll see in the second half. That should not be a game right there for the Gators. Ty Holder, thanks for sending a super chat. Dave, given what you've seen of Lagway, how would you rate him as opposed to a long list of quarterbacks Florida has seen the last 15 years? Tom, I'm assuming you mean Florida quarterbacks, the long list of quarterbacks Florida has seen, but I'm assuming you mean has seen on their own roster. Coming in, National Gatorade Player of the Year, one of the top players in the country. He blows all of them out of the water based on that. In the last 15 years, Will Grier, of course, was highly recruited, did some good things in his short stint at Florida. if he can replicate anything as far as not the same type of stats, what Kyle Trask did in 2020 and 2019 for that matter, coming in for Felipe Franks. If he can have that type of impact, that's the type of impact you're looking for. A guy that goes to, wins a lot of ball games first and foremost. I don't care if he goes to New York and fights for a Heisman. Give me the wins. So if you have, you start right there. In the last 15 years, you start with Kyle Trask. And that's it. Last 15 years, I'm trying to go off the top of my head here, and maybe I will work backwards. Anthony Richardson, of course, all the potential in the world, just didn't win ball games for Florida. Before that, Emory Jones, of course, was a highly 4-star quarterback, just didn't break through, did some good things, but, didn't have a defense to help him out all that much, and he would have had a better win-loss record with a better defense. But wasn't enough to carry the Florida team. Like Kyle Trask had to carry that team in 2020. And that's what you're looking for. Now, hopefully DJ Lagway doesn't have to carry a team either. And you look at this schedule, you're gonna need your defense again. You're gonna need what you've seen the last month, the last few games from that defense. So working backwards there, what was I at? We did Emory, AR, Emory. It was Kyle Trask before that. Felipe Franks, I think, did some good things. Of course, got Florida back on track under Dan Mullen after Jim McElwain, brought Felipe Franks in. But Felipe Franks did a lot of good things to get Florida back on track under Dan Mullen. Won some ball games in 2018, 2019. Didn't have the best start against Miami that season. Of course, gets injured. Kyle Trask comes in, saves the year, rest is history. Before that, Luke Del Rio, Malik Zaire, Austin Appleby, Treon Harris, Will Greer. You start working back. So, right now you're looking at what? Kyle Trask at the top. Just give me that impact. Everybody else, let's group together. AR, like I said, potential-wise, up there. As far as wins go, maybe Felipe Franks is behind Kyle Trask. Though in what Will Greer, what you thought he probably could have been, he's probably second or third. How far back is that? That's about 2015. So before that, Jeff Driscoll, Jacoby Brissett, Tyler Murphy. Ranking all those guys don't really do a whole lot. Just give me the top. And Kyle Trask, give me that impact tie. That's what I'm looking for DJ Lagway. So, look, too soon to rate him right now. As far as most of that goes, already with the big wins, LSU and Ole Miss, he's already going to be up there as far as big wins go. Undefeated as a starter, games he started and finished. He's probably, with what he's done. He did better than he's done better than what Will Greer did. When Will Greer had that little stint. So, okay, maybe Lagway's already in the last 15 years for Florida quarterbacks. There's not a lot of great quarterbacks to talk about. So are you already putting in second, third, or fourth? Depending on, like I said, Felipe Franks had a whole season in 2018, did some good things for Florida, got him back on track. Lagway might already be second. Maybe I'm not forgetting anybody. But, yeah. Little did I know. Good question. Good comment. We went deep there, didn't we? So, Dave Chauncey says, yeah, absolutely. Jeff Driscoll in 2012. So there you go. There's your number 2. Just because of the whole 2012 year. Not really lighting it up, but instrumental in late games at Texas A&M, at Tennessee, at home versus LSU. Of course, just was a clutch player on that 2020 and on that 2012 team. But the list is not long. The list is not long. Okay, let's see here. I'm going through some more comments and we'll get into some transfer portal talk here. Just keeping the schedule up. Finally, some warm-up games. Okay, that's where I was at. So, Gator fan Kavan, it's great that we finally have easy games to begin the season. I've always said it's good to have cupcake games to begin the season because college teams don't have preseason like the pros. Yeah, that's certainly a way to look at it. Yeah, probably wouldn't want it every year. Florida had 3 years in a row. So yeah, it did Florida in the last couple of years with at Utah, hosting Miami. But just also remember now just how excited you were to get the season started. That Miami game had a lot of hype behind it. There's a lot to look forward to. I think it depends. Like this year, I thought it was a good thing for Florida because you had Graham Mertz coming back. You had Montrell Johnson coming back. Trey Wilson coming back. You had a lot of experience coming back in your key areas of the team. Yeah, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So I think it depends on where your team's at for the most part. If you got a lot of new pieces, certainly I think cupcakes are, if you're switching quarterbacks or something like that, or a brand new coach or something like that, yeah, give me the cupcake to get the wrinkles out a little bit. John brings up a good point, and of course we got all off season to talk about this. Every game is winnable. We'll deep dive into the schedule later on as we figure out what other teams add to the portal and all that good stuff. But we know enough by now. The late season stretch Florida went on in those wins, how they played in a lot of those games beside the Texas game. And, granted, I don't forget the first couple, the first few games of the season. That was inexcusable, but Florida was a different team in late in the season. Yeah, every game is winnable. You got a quarterback, you got a chance. It starts right there. And then some pieces coming back. What we saw from the defense. Another year of the coaching staff. So certainly, every game is winnable. Dang right it is. And look, when you decided to bring Billy Napier back for year 4, this is how you needed to look at the 25 schedule. You don't look at the 25 schedule and bring him back for year 4 and say every game's not winnable. You're bringing him back for year 4. As I said, it is not a reset. So, yeah, you should be able to look at this schedule and say every game is winnable. Carlos Sainz, thanks for the donation here. DJ reminds me of Tebow with a stronger arm. Yeah, not in the battering ram as far as a runner goes, as Tebow, but certainly he is dual threat, more of will rely on his arms than his legs. But the dual threat side of it, sure. And as you said, the better arm. Yeah, absolutely. But when DJ runs, it's not going to be battering ram style. So that big difference there in that regard. Slick sophistication. Hope we go undefeated. Oh yeah, for sure. That we're all looking forward to. Sean Mack says, I like the Tennessee game where it is. 2 huge rivalry games in November. Man, maybe an SEC title. Could you imagine that stretch? Rival Tennessee at home. Rival Florida State at home. Atlanta the next week. And I say that because of their rivals, but at Ole Miss the week before that. If Florida State improves, which I think they will, at Ole Miss, Tennessee at home, Florida State at home, that's a stretch there. And look at it. Only because of that bye week before Texas, that's the toughest 3-game stretch Florida has, to me, at Ole Miss, hosting Tennessee, hosting Florida State. Now, at LSU, at Miami, bye week Texas, that's tougher in general. But Ole Miss, Tennessee back-to-back, that's not going to be easy. Texas, at Texas A&M, Mississippi State, maybe that's a little tougher as far as the 3-game stretch goes. But Texas, Tennessee, and Texas, you give it to them there. Yeah, I don't know. Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State, that might be the toughest 3-game stretch. But a true 3-game stretch. Of course, at LSU, at Miami, Texas, that's probably your toughest 3-game stretch. But there's that bye week before Texas. Slick sophistication for sure. We have to take it one game at a time. Yes, the team does. We as fans do not. We can have all the fun we want to with this. But yeah, on the road with EG says it is interesting. Buys before Texas and Georgia is interesting. Yeah, bye weeks before your toughest 2 games of the season. Okay. I'm trying to go. Brian, good point. And I brought it up a little bit earlier. I want to be stoked for 25, but I'm terrified after this year's start. The finish to this year has been awesome, though. Yeah, you hope they learn something. You hope that first bye week where they had a come to Jesus moment on defense. And of course, a lot of this too was the unfortunate injury to Graham Mertz, and DJ Lagway comes in and the offense starts taking off a bit. But whatever they've done in practice and whatever they've done in preparation and whatever they did in preparation for the whole season, throw that in the garbage. We don't need that again. Whatever you figured out this past offseason or past during the season, that first bye week, that's what you have to replicate. And I know practice was more intense. That was a big part of it. So certainly replicate that going into next year. Brian Fisher, UF 2025 equals UF 2012 with a better quarterback. Man, Brian, you give me a defense that's anywhere close to 2012 and what we think DJ Lagway can be, Florida's in the playoff, no doubt. No doubt. Any defense close to 2012. And DJ Lagway, yeah, you're in the playoff. You better be in the playoff. Ex-Gator. Brian, thanks for that donation. Ex-Gator. Boy, to take Florida to get ranked again. Florida will be ranked going into next season. So think of Florida as a ranked team with this schedule. Now, ex-Gator, there will be another poll, coaches poll, AP poll after the bowl games, I'm pretty sure. If Florida goes and beats Tulane, you might see a 25th, 24th come in on the polls. I can see that. 8-5 finish might get you there. Now, depending on who else loses and all that. Who wins, who loses around that, 22 to 25 range. I think you can see Florida ranked. Going back to the other conversation, Robin Dawes says, other than Trask, the quarterbacks since Tebow have been really bad, other than the Greer short run. Like I said, and Franks, as I said, in 2018, good quarterback. Nothing more, nothing less. Just a good quarterback. Another good Real Army Sniper. Thanks for the donation here, Dave. We'll need to see an OC hire if this team is expected to make a playoff run. News coming. On that front, I don't think anytime soon. I think Florida's going to get through the transfer portal, get through this bowl game, and then I think you may see some things. If that's going to happen, I know there was talk of when Billy Napier and the vote of confidence was coming out, that might have been part of it. We'll see. I mean, I've heard it too. Heard it last year, and then things changed. It was supposed to happen last year. I stand by that, but it changed. It's supposed to happen this year. Will it change again? We will see. Cody Moore says Florida only has one off week this season, and that's Mississippi State. Jeff Lebby, like I said, in their second year, so I expect a year 2 improvement. We'll see. I think if you're putting Mississippi State as an off week, I'd still got to put. Now, if you're meaning SEC, then okay. But Long Island's an off week. If you put Mississippi State as an off week, I would put USF in that off week as well. But Mississippi State SEC team, I don't think you want to take it for too light now. Tie holder, you know what? Good point. You brought up a good point. We're forgetting Graham Mertz. Yeah, you're right. I was going impact on team as far as win losses go. But yeah, Graham Mertz last year, he did provide some stability. Did not have a defense to go along with him either. And I brought that up for other quarterbacks. So certainly, Graham Mertz should be in there as well. Yeah, I call that recency bias. I just kind of completely overlooked it there. When you've been last 15 years, I didn't really go back to last year. But certainly, Graham Mertz should be up there. Yeah, and like I said, give him a better defense, and there's more wins than he has thought about better. I do think if you guys follow Gators Breakdown and all that, we chronicled last year. We all spent time together last year. And it wasn't the season we wanted, but there were some things Graham Mertz did to really help this team. And too bad he didn't have a defense to go along with it. Matthew Walker does say LSU was the most critical road game in Napier's career, in my opinion. Man, that's good. I could say at Miami the next week is. You got to beat them. Can't go there, especially with all the questions they're going to have without Cam Ward. Now, we'll see who they can bring in at quarterback again, but still, you didn't play so well against Miami this year. You got to, I think it might be that one. But I get what you're saying at LSU. It's a yearly opponent. Well, maybe in the future. We don't know what the future holds for SEC schedule. But you're right in some ways. It's because it is the first road game of the season. You want to start off 3-0. A lot of hype would be taken down if you lose to your first tough opponent of the year. I can see it. I can see that. Buddy Waters brings up a good point. Yeah, it'd be Austin Simmons there at Ole Miss for the quarterback spot. Played well against Georgia in his short little stint there when Jackson Dart went out with an injury. Okay, good stuff, guys. Good stuff on that stuff. Let me get my ugly mug back up here. If you're watching the YouTube version, podcast version, you hadn't seen my face in a while. You ain't seen my face anyway, but had to keep the schedule up there for a good bit. All right, so let's get into some transfer portal talk before we sign off on this episode of Gators Breakdown. Like a lot of good schedule talk there, guys. Thank you so much. Keeshawn Silver, defensive lineman, on campus now. Started his visit yesterday on Tuesday. It will end on Thursday. It was extended by a day, so hopefully that's a good sign. Discussed him at length on Monday's episode, as we did a lot of these guys. So if you want even more, if you feel like you've missed some, go back and listen to Monday's episode. Me, Will Miles, we dove into a lot of these guys. But Keeshawn Silver, of course, got to be one of the top targets. You got Caleb Banks returning. Would love to pair him up with somebody like Keeshawn Silver. But discussed him at length on Monday's episode. He's focusing on 4 schools as transfer options: Florida, Miami, Michigan, USC. 24/7 Sports has him as a 28th player overall in the portal, the 3rd-ranked defensive lineman, while On3 has him as the 29th overall, but the number 1 defensive lineman in the transfer portal. So I had this conversation on Twitter on Tuesday, I believe. And I get it. And, Will and I talked about it on Monday, too. It's like, yeah, you'd like to get the big school names, the guys who are at big schools who are deciding to transfer portal. Yeah, they're going to cost a lot, but you'd like to have them. But it was like, where are our players? ETN's getting poached, and you remember Yellen's getting poached. And this was coming off the Pyburn news, and we'll get into that in just a second, too. But why can't we get the guys from the big schools? Well, okay, but Kentucky's not a big school. But Keeshawn Silver is a big name. He is the number 3rd-ranked defensive lineman on 24/7 Sports. The number 1-ranked defensive lineman in the portal on 3. So I could care less where he comes from. He's one of the top-ranked defensive linemen in the transfer portal right now. If you can go get him, you go get him. I don't care if he's not from Georgia. I don't care if he's not from Texas or Ohio State. Kentucky's got a really good reputation for trench play along the defensive front. He fits the mold of what you want to bring in. So Watson, Jackson, of course, on their way out for the Gators defensive line. Great get to pair up with Caleb Banks coming back. So on campus, don't let him leave. Now, I'm not going to say Florida's not going to get him if he leaves campus and goes to other visits. But extending that visit by a day, hopefully that's a good sign for the Gators when this is all said and done. 2nd-ranked safety, Zachariah Poyser. We talked about him. Jacksonville State safety. He'll have his Florida visit on the 14th. He will visit LSU on the 12th and Auburn on the 13th. So as I just talked about with Silver, you got the first visit. You'd love to shut it down. Well, it's the other way here with Poyser. Visiting LSU on the 12th, Auburn on the 13th. You hope he doesn't shut it down there at one of those two stops before he gets to Florida's campus. One of the top targets overall with 3 years to play. 75 tackles, 3 interceptions in this past season as a redshirt freshman. He's one of the top targets overall for this Florida team. All right, let's get to wide receiver. A little bit of defense right there and letting you know visits are happening. As we mentioned last episode, with Florida having their bowl game next week, they'll be in Tampa for a good bit. So these visits have got to happen this week, this weekend, maybe early next week. And then the weekend after, Florida's bowl games next Friday. Be back on campus late Friday, Saturday. Florida can host some visits next weekend as well. But we'll be missing some days because of the bowl game next week. Go to receiver, Miami of Ohio, wide receiver Reggie Virgil. He'll visit Florida this weekend. Native of Apopka, Florida, of course. 6'4", 190 pounds, going for the big bodies here at receiver. Downfield threats here at receiver. Visiting this weekend. A reminder, this past season, 41 receptions, 816 yards, 9 touchdowns, averaged 19.9 yards per catch, about 20 yards per catch right there. Michigan State, Oklahoma also getting visits this week, possibly one more school. 24/7 Sports currently ranks Virgil as a 4-star transfer prospect. So once again, not a big school. Not a big school here. Miami of Ohio, but still a 4-star in the transfer portal. They have him number 22 overall and the 10th ranked wide receiver on the 24/7 Sports transfer rankings. So it doesn't matter what school he's coming from. Highly thought of, productive. He's got 1 season left to play. East Carolina wide receiver Chase Sowell visiting Florida on December 21st. So we got to wait a bit for this one. Visiting Houston and Iowa State this week. 6'4", 34 catches, 678 yards. East Carolina this past season was productive in his 2 years there. 79 passes, 1,300 yards, 4 touchdowns. Remember, maybe an in here for Florida. Both of his parents played sports at Florida. He's got 2 seasons left to play. 12th ranked wide receiver on the 24/7 Sports transfer rankings. Keeping it receiver, of course, this is where a lot of the names are coming from. Florida will be in competition with Texas A&M for Oklahoma transfer wide receiver Nick Anderson. He is the 4th highest ranked wide receiver in the transfer portal rankings on 24/7 Sports. Talked about him, his lot of production 2 seasons ago. Didn't do much this past season. Downfield threat. I think Florida, Texas A&M, good shape right there. And then lastly at wide receiver, right here on this Wednesday, multiple sources saying UCLA transfer J. Michael Sturdivant will visit Florida this weekend as well. Originally from Dallas, he spent his career in the state of California. Entering his 5th college year, he began at the Cal Golden Bears. Redshirted after playing 4 games in his true freshman season in 2021. The following year in 2022, he played 12 games, 755 receiving yards in his first true season, 7 touchdowns. He did transfer to UCLA in 2023. During his time with the Bruins, he tallied 912 receiving yards, 58 receptions, 6 touchdowns across 24 games. 6'3" wideout made, like you said, immediate impact in his first UCLA season. 600 receiving yards, 36 receptions, 4 touchdowns there at UCLA. But his numbers did decline this year. He ranked 5th on the team in receiving yards, 3rd among wide receivers, with 315 yards and 2 touchdowns. His yards per catch fell by 2.3 from 2023. But a lot of the blame wasn't put on him. Remember, Eric Bieniemy, the UCLA offensive coordinator, just got fired. There was a lot of criticism about how he was not using Sturdivant's speed, his size effectively as a deep threat. He did manage 2 100-plus receiving games this season. 2 100-plus yard receiving games this season. 2 of those. He hasn't been ranked in the portal rankings yet, but I imagine he'll probably be in that 10, 15 range for wide receivers. So J. Michael Sturdivant, look out for him. As I said, going to visit Florida. Multiple sources saying so. So this weekend, look out for that. I think there's been interest in the past as well with him. So one to look out for. Has produced. See if anything comes of it this weekend. And then let's keep it at UCLA and go to quarterback. Yeah, quarterback's pretty interesting. You got DJ Lagway, who's going to want to come and, let's just call it what it is, sit behind DJ Lagway. And that's what Florida's facing right now. So we go back to UCLA. Quarterback transfer Justin Martin. He's visiting Florida today, on Wednesday. Former 4-star from Inglewood, California. 3-star in the portal rankings. Ranked as a 10th quarterback overall currently in the portal. And Florida at the quarterback spot has also offered Charlotte signal caller Deshaun Purdy, true freshman in 2024. Threw for 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns against 6 interceptions, 3 years of eligibility remaining. I think Georgia's interested as well in Purdy. So there you go. There's about the names you've heard of the most. Social media, other sites out there. Still waiting on more clarity from the offensive line. What's going to happen there, of course, offensive tackle at the right side of the offensive tackle, probably another spot. I think you can look for maybe some more names along the defensive line at safety as well. But trying to just, don't want to drown you guys in names. So that's the highlights right there for the transfer portal of guys visiting currently or coming up. And then let's go back to I didn't want to do an episode just on this on Tuesday, knowing that the schedule release was coming on Wednesday, and I'm going to tie it all in and get some more updates in the transfer portal anyway. But the news of Jack Pyburn on Tuesday, and very polarizing. I think surprised a whole lot of people. Started getting wind of that one over the weekend, late last week over the weekend. It was a possibility, but he still would have his exit meeting on Monday. So what would come of that? Well, what would come of that is Jack Pyburn entering the transfer portal. A guy who, up until this point, been labeled a diehard Gator. I'm here in Jacksonville. I know he grows up as a Gator, a Gator fan. That's why this one's kind of surprised a little bit. Kind of a dagger a bit just because of that angle of it. But of course, a tough road for him coming back, in 2023. Had that torn ACL in the second half of the season against Arkansas. But a significant role this year for the Gators. He started the final 8 games of this season, appeared in all 12 games, 60 tackles, 20 solo. He was second on the team behind Triquez Bridges in tackles. He had 4 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 interception. Playing that jack spot and 1 sack. But, you look at Jack Pyburn, and what we all liked about him, his best trait was just bringing it, bringing the lunch pail at that jack spot. Tough, physical play, would take on blockers, would blow plays up, set the edge well, played the run well. But at that jack spot, you'd like a better pass rusher. He was a plus player. Don't get me wrong, but if you gave me a choice, would you like Jack Pyburn on your team? Yes, I would. But not an overly special player, but he did his job. Certainly played a role in this defense, playing better down the stretch. This end of year stretch, Pyburn was a big, big part of that. But most of the pass rush came closer inside on this defensive line, Sapp and Banks. And of course, we all heard the report, and it was Zach Alberverdi, and look, it all started kind of coming out anyway about the money side of it and how much money Jack Pyburn wanted. And I know the $500,000 number was thrown out there, and it came out with Zach's report, $45,000 a month. You ain't getting that, nor should you get that at the edge spot. Wanted assurances that he was going to be on the field more. That he wanted to assure that he was going to start. and play more on third down. I mean, pass rushing wasn't his forte. You're not going to be on the field third down. Now, if you wanted to, look, no fault if you want to be on the field more. I want guys who want to be on the field. I want guys who want to go give their all and all that. But if there's a limit to part of your game, there's a reason you're not on the field on third down. Look, I don't want to talk bad about Jack Pyburn. That's not what I'm trying to do here, but there's a reality to all this. So I hate to see him go. Like I said, you didn't have to worry about Jack Pyburn not doing his job. If something went wrong, sometimes you're going to get beat. And he's not like, this can't stop player, but he did his job. Like I said, he's a plus player. I'd love to have Jack Pyburn on this team. But with the assurances he wanted, absolutely not. And I tweeted this too on the other day, and people were, oh, you pay him. He's one of your better players on defense. You got to pay him. Well, you got to pay him. Who else you got to go pay? It's a chain reaction. You want to go way overpay for this? What's the reaction going to be? Then you got to start paying everybody else a lot more than what they're worth. You can't do that. So, there's two sides to this, and good friend of the program, Jay Bud. You guys follow, you've seen on here, on Twitter. And I want to share his thoughts too. He brought some good points up. Two views from him on this. He said opinions can change when new info comes out. My two views on Pyburn hitting the portal. And this is what I like doing on Gators Breakdown, bringing both sides of the story. The good, the bad. I'll give you my opinion, and then you make your opinion based off of it. But Jay Bud brings up two good points. View one, losing Pyburn is fine. Guarantees, if true, are ridiculous. Okay, going to the points I just made. Don't think he'll get $540K, nor should he. A mid pass rusher. And then who else do you have there? Gums, who came on as well toward the end of the year with this defense. Searcy, McCray. So, okay, then. There's other players that can help make up for a loss of Jack Pyburn. The view two is that losing Pyburn is bad. Number two in tackles. Certainly, like I said, he did his job. Set the edge very well. Would just rush into the backfield and take on opposing offensive linemen and running backs and just lay the wood. That's a job in college, in football in general. Sometimes that's just what you do. You go create havoc. So number two in tackles. Great versus the run. As I said, now we saw the other side of that with Princely. Probably and that's what you're looking at here. You're looking at two guys who played that jack spot in the last 2 years for the Gators, hitting the transfer portal. Princely could get to the quarterback, couldn't set the edge, couldn't stop the run. Who's going to be a first round? Who's possibly going to be a first round pick? Princely, you might be yelling. Who set the edge? Who played the run? Who's not going to be a first round pick? The role at that jack spot is mostly getting to the quarterback. Been on third down, getting to the quarterback, making a difference. Bud Davis brings up also a good point of why losing Jack Pyburn is bad. Helped enable a light box in the two high safety looks that Florida went to after week 4. 30% in coverage snaps, a big part of the sim creeper pressure packages. Gums and McCray, more true pass rushers. So look, there's plus and minuses. And look, that's the world of college football right now. You're going to lose players that are plus players. That's just, every team is going to lose guys they don't really want to lose. There's not infinite money out there, no matter what program you're at. And don't get me wrong, I wish there was infinite money and everybody was getting paid whatever they want. But that's not ideal. If those numbers are true, you just can't do it. You can't do it. There's one guy on this team that can demand whatever price tag he's putting on himself. And that's number 2 behind center. That is it. That is it. So look, maybe it still works out. He's entered the portal. You don't have to go to another team. Maybe conversations can still happen. But Jack Pyburn and put it himself a post out there that he's entering the transfer portal. So we'll see. We'll see what all that means. But man, yeah, it was some surprising news. Wasn't sure it was gonna happen or not, but but why not spend the money? We don't ever spend money. Why can't we afford a player like that? Florida doesn't ever spend money. You think Caleb Banks is coming back just because he loves the game of football? He could have went to the NFL and made some money, a good bit of money. Think he'd come back to Florida out of the goodness of his heart? No, Florida had to come off the wallet a bit. And I don't know what the number is there, but you're not coming back if you're Caleb Banks, if your wallet's not getting fatter. Carlos Sands, hey, thanks for your donation here too. I don't expect an OC because of DJ and Jones. Hey, that's another angle to all this OC talk. If you're Billy Napier, how can you look at this? If you're Billy Napier and you got that toy you finally wanted, you gonna let somebody else play with it? You got that 5-star quarterback, the type of quarterback you've been waiting on. And now, look, I ain't saying he is or not. I'm just saying this is a angle he could look at this from. I'm calling the plays for number 2. I got the quarterback. This is what I've been waiting on. This is what I believe in. This is the guy that can make my offense look exactly the way I want it to look. Why would I want somebody else calling plays? Why would I want somebody else? Now, look, you're not going to bring somebody in and really change this offense. It's not going to be a brand new offense. If you bring somebody in, it's going to be very similar to what this team has run the last few years under Billy Napier. You're not going to start from scratch with DJ Lagway. It doesn't make a lot of sense to. But you can't bring in somebody, if you are going to bring in somebody, who can just open up the passing game a bit, expand the passing game, the run game, the run elements, absolutely fine for Billy Napier. But maybe another set of eyes to help open up the passing game. That's the angle a lot of people are looking at here, as far as just a pure offense goes. Now, that I'm not counting the CEO part of it and the game management part of it, is all that. I'm just looking at the pure offensive aspect of it. Okay. Let me get to a couple more comments. And then I'll be signing off here on this episode of Gators Breakdown. Everybody, thanks for hopping in. Good live audience tonight. Thank you so much. Okay. Sorry, guys. Don't mean to have the silence here. I'm just trying to catch up on comments a bit. Kind of going to the point I just made, Sebek or Esbeck. I don't have a problem with Billy's offense, but feel like we need a dedicated play caller to keep the game flowing. I don't want DJ and company trying to learn a new playbook. There you go. That's kind of the point I was making there. Kenny Roberts says, Dave, I think the Lagway impact on Florida is much bigger than Tebow because Florida has been bad, so bad, Tebow didn't have that problem. Good point. DJ Lagway has been looked at and had the label savior. Savior for the Florida football program. Savior for Billy Napier. A lot of pressure. A lot of impact. Ty Holder says, thanks for the conversation, Dave. And as always, go Gators. Travis Peterson going to some portal talk here. Sometimes you don't want the big schools. It seems to me that they are just guys big schools didn't want after they seen what they were like. Small schools, there are diamonds in the rough. Leah, look, it changes once you got the college lights on. And especially for guys who have had a couple years to put numbers up. I mean, you start moving away. Now, look, they re-rate the stars. And if you're a transfer portal 4-star or 5-star, if you were a high school 2-star at that point, who cares? If you're rated as a 4-star, 5-star in the transfer portal, that means you went and done some production. So, look, and these recruiting services have done that. As I said, these receivers that we just talked about, they weren't at big schools, but they're highly rated in the transfer portal. And Brian Fisher, there you go. Good point. Give me production. I don't give a damn what school. Exactly. I mean, and it's hard to know sometimes. Look at that. Osiris Torrance, Montrell Johnson. I mean, 2 from Louisiana. Billy Napier brought with him. If been huge impact for the Gators. There's been the other side of it, too. Don't get me wrong. Joey Slackman coming from Penn. Yeah, that didn't work out. DJ Daniels coming from Tulane. Yeah, that didn't work out. There's also been some guys from the big schools that we've brought in from the transfer portal, and it didn't work out. So, yeah, give me guys who have just been producing and trying to figure it out. Oh, let's see. Brian brings up a good point. This is what we'll find out in the transfer portal. Time for Florida to use that buyout money. We'll find out where Florida stands on football and being competitive, not only on the field, but in the portal. I'm assuming this goes for the Pyburn talk. Travis Peterson says, he's just like most of the kids in college football today. Don't care about team or anything. It's all about the money. It's a business now, unfortunately. That's just where we're at in the sport. Hopefully, guys who look the days of playing for the logo, they don't think like we. They don't think like we do. And look, don't get me wrong. If somebody's throwing me a whole bunch of money too, it's hard. Especially if it was. Now, that's another thing about Pyburn and that money. Is he going to get that money from somewhere else? Okay, more power to you if you're going to pay him that much. But if he's going to get more than whatever Florida would play him, okay, more power to him. More power to him. Brian says, do you think he was asked to hit the portal to free up money? No. Florida would rather have Jack Pyburn on the team. Okay, let's see. Brian Fisher, yep, production over 4 5-star bench warmers. CB, thank you so much. Gators Breakdown or Nothing. There we go. A lot of other good shows out there, too. Zach Reynolds. We've had this conversation, but bring it up anyway. I'm glad the Gators are getting a bowl game this year. I was only really hoping we would get paired against Miami. Yeah, you won't see that. You won't see bowl games do that when there's a stretch of back-to-back year games. You won't see Florida play Miami at the beginning of the season and then a bowl game and then play Miami again next year. Bowl games want to avoid that because you get still the bowl games. There's still it's the exhibition game. It doesn't count for much. And we're going to play this team recently anyway when it really mattered. And that's not me guessing that. I've heard bowl chairmans on the radio talking about, especially here in Jacksonville with the Gator Bowl, and they dismissed that as fast as they could. They were like, no, we would not want Florida Miami. So now they would take it because Florida in the stands. But he said bowl games stay away from the rematches. Now, on that note, how stupid is it what Colorado and BYU were playing again in the Big 12? They already played again this year. Makes no sense. Okay, here we go. Comments right here. If we don't get an OC, we're going to lose the game due to Billy's play calling. Don't know why you're defending him. Billy will cost us 2 games as a play caller. Gators can't afford him. Okay. We will see. Ain't nothing I can do about it. Ain't nothing you can do about it. We just have to see what it plays like. Brian Fisher says, Colorado and BYU. They didn't play this year? I could have swore they played this year. All right, then. I mean, I'm going to look it up, but I'm sure you know. I don't know why I thought they played this year. But they play on the 28th. Yep. Okay. I don't know why I thought they played this year. For whatever reason, I thought that was one of Colorado's losses for some reason. Okay. Well, my mistake. Glad I was corrected. I think I was thinking of Kansas State when Kansas State played them late in the year. Yeah, October 12th. That's the game I was thinking of. I guess not late in the year, but yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Good looking out, Brian. Good looking out. All right, good stuff, guys. Thank you so much. A lot of schedule talk, transfer portal talk. Any commitments along the way, we'll be right here. One more before I get out of here. Caleb Harding, Dave, do you think we lose anyone else crazy to the portal? Look, there's been talk of the other edge guys too, with Searcy and even Cam James. I'm not going to shy behind it. Shamar James as well at the linebacker spot. So there's the names I would just be looking out for. Not saying they will be, but those are the conversations going on. So as far that would be the craziest right there along those lines. All right, guys. Thank you so much. That'll do it right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.